Hello, welcome. I hope your coffee is warm because today, as we have said in the top 10 most popular commanders of this month, we are doing Y'shtola or Y'shtola, Knights Blessed. And in this deck tag, we will be talking about one of the most popular commanders of this time. It has shot up in popularity immediately after its release, and it has stayed there, which many Final Fantasy characters even didn't. So why is this the case? Well, one of the things is that Y'shtola is a very popular character still. The other thing is that it is just a very fun commander that can work in so many types of decks that it is fun for anyone. Basically, it's like pizza. So Y'shtola says at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. And this is very easy to do. You can deal damage to yourself. You can make other people lose life, which you of course rather would want to do. And the second ability plays around with this too. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So you only need to cast 2 non-creature spells with mana value 3 or greater to trigger the first ability, which of course works very well together. So lore is one thing, Final Fantasy just being popular and a good set I think is the second thing, and the third thing is that this works with any deck, any Esper deck that wants to use enchantments, artifacts or instants or sorceries that cost 3 or more mana, which is basically all of them. So what are we going to put in this deck? Well, first of all, we need some protection. Some protection for Y'shtola herself, but also for ourselves, because we are in a Spellslinger deck. Now, in whichever way you choose to build Y'shtola, you need some protection. And in my experience with non-creature or Spellslinger decks, you want things like this, like Propaganda, which says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. First of all, it's 3 mana, so it will trigger Y'shtola. Second of all, this is just really good because your opponents won't be able to attack you very soon, and in a multiplayer game, people will just choose not to attack you most of the times, because your opponents are easier to attack. Another way of protecting yourself is fog effect, like Ink Shield. Of course, we are not really in the colors for the real fogs or frogs, but we have this one, which is really good. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn. For each 1 damage prevented this way, create a 2/1 Inkling with flying. And that means that oftentimes you can deal twice as much damage as your opponents were going to do to you, which oftentimes means that you can defeat your opponents in one fell swoop. So I really like Ink Shield. It's a bit expensive because it is so strong, but it's a great way. And you can of course find multiple ways to have some fog effects. Now, many of the archetypes or groups of cards that I have put in this deck also do this thing. Blind Obedience has the Extort ability. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay a white or a black mana, and if you do, each opponent loses a life and you gain that much life. And the thing it does is put some extra life loss on the card. Of course, this is still protection because creatures your opponents control will enter the battlefield tapped, which means they are a bit slower to attack you. But I really like the combination of the two. So this is a really good effect for our deck because it protects us, but it also helps us deal some damage to our opponents, of which we will need 4 every turn. And if it is just that much easier to use our instance and flash sometimes cards to deal 4 damage, then it's all the better. Now in this deck, I have put in way more removal, board wipes, card draw effects, all the things that you need as your basics for a deck, because we can do anything. Y'shtola is such a good commander on her own that you can put any other thing in this deck, and I have made it as basic as possible, which just means that we are very controlling in the end. One thing or type of board wipe that is really good is a card like Merciless Poisoning or Toxic Deluge, but I've used this one because it's from Final Fantasy. Why is it good? Because it says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you have to pay X life. to choose how much -X you will do to each creature. But losing life yourself also means you are triggering Y'shtola. For card draw, of course, we are in great colors for this because we have blue, we have black, but one thing that works really well is a curiosity effect, or in this case, a Helm of the Ghast Lord effect. This one says, as long as enchanted creature is blue, it gets extra power and has whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. So whenever you trigger that Y'shtola effect, you will draw a card, and also whenever Y'shtola deals damage to an opponent, that player also discards a card. And of course you are dealing damage to every opponent, so there will be a lot of discarding done. The next one I want to show you is a new one, Decorum Dissertation. This is a 5 mana sorcery, which feels a little bit expensive, but once you learn what it does, it feels really cheap. So 5 mana to have target player draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, but it also has Paradigm. And this thing means that every turn you get to cast this spell again for the rest of the game. I thought it was only going to help you cast it 1 extra time, but actually it will help you cast it many times, and this just means that you are casting a 5 mana spell that will deal 2 damage to all of your opponents and gain you 2 life, and then you lose 2 life again and then draw 2 cards. And this just means that it is so much easier to trigger that ability of Y'shtola, but also you get to draw a lot of cards. Another card draw effect I really like is Black Market Connections. It's 3 mana for an enchantment, so it will trigger Y'shtola. Again, many things do that. And then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you get to choose how much life you will use for how many effects. Now you could use them all, then you lose 6 life, which is too much. You only need to lose 4. And then you get a 3/2, that is also every creature type. If you need it, you draw a card, lose 2 life, create a treasure token, lose a life. So this is really good for Y'shtola in many ways because it's so flexible. You draw cards, you get a treasure, you lose a bunch of life, which you love. It does everything. Now this card in control decks has been really good in standard, but really will be good in Commander too if people start to play it actually. Mindsplice Apparatus is a flash artifact which we love because it will trigger Y'shtola on another person's turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you will put an oil counter on Mindsplice Apparatus, and for each oil counter on it, instants and sorceries will cost 1 less to cast. So that means that you will get to storm off with your instants and sorceries once you feel like this can be the way to win the game. So if you feel like you can win the game through your instants and sorceries, because of course there are many other cards in this deck that can help you do that without Y'shtola needing, without needing Y'shtola, you can use this to sort of finish the game. Then the Wind Crystal, one of the cards that are about one of the earliest games of Final Fantasy. The Wind Crystal makes your white spells a bit cheaper, which is nice, but also has the ability to give your creatures flying, which can sometimes be useful for all of the tokens that you will create in this deck, and lifelink. And lifelink is just so good in this deck because Y'shtola getting lifelink means that you will gain extra life whenever she deals a bit of damage. So it just does so much for this deck. Now, as we are a control deck, I feel like we should be allowed a combo. I would say Exquisite Blood is the best way to go. This one is a 5 mana enchantment that says whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. And combine it with something that says the opposite thing, like Enduring Tenacity, which says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. You go infinite and make your opponents lose all of their life, which means you win. Now, these are especially good in this deck because Enduring Tenacity, of course, says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and that triggers whenever Y'shtola triggers. And the same goes for Exquisite Blood, because your opponents will lose life every time Y'shtola triggers, which means that you will gain the life as well. Especially I like Enduring Tenacity or effects like it, because it will mean that once Y'shtola triggers, all of your opponents will have lost, or one of your opponents will have lost 4 life, and that means that you get to trigger her other ability. Now, if you know me, you know I like to have multiple commanders in my deck. So Delny, Streetwise Lookout, is a 3-mana creature that says that if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Now, luckily, our commander is 2 power or less, so her ability will be, well, it's just 2 power. Her ability will be triggered twice, and all of those abilities that you will be using throughout the game triggering twice is just way too strong. Now, more and more there are more abilities or more cards that make a token of a legendary creature that help it stick around, like File Duplication, I'll just call it, which is a 4-mana version of this that says create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it isn't legendary and gains flying. So that just means that you get 2 Y'shtolas as well. Really got to like that. From the same precon we got Graha, Tia, or Garaha, I think, Scion Reborn, a 3-mana Esper cat as well, with lifelink, and says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life. Of course, you can have a 4-mana spell, meaning you pay 4 life and trigger Y'shtola, and where X is the spell's mana value, you will create a 1/1 and put X +1 counters on it. You only get to do this once each turn, but you can get some very big heroes this way. And then Dancer's Chakrams, which is a very good card in this deck because once you play it, it will enter with a 1/1 that it gets attached to. It will get +2/+2 and lifelink, and your commanders will also get +2/+2 and lifelink, meaning Y'shtola gets lifelink whoever you put this equipment on. They will also become a performer, which might be useful sometime in the future. And that was it for this deck. I hope you like the deck, and I hope you love the fact that this commander is now in the top 10 Hall of Fame. So I hope you will be finding new decks to play with every set so that I can make even more videos like this. I'd like to thank you for watching and have a nice day.